Welcome back to another episode of the E&S Hoover Show. It is a Sunday evening here, and I'm recording this inside of my home office. I want to first off take a moment to say if you like the content we're providing here, if you please take a moment to subscribe to the channel. That really helps us out and continue to grow, and I really appreciate the support. If you're watching this video, more than likely it's because you're either interested in investing in rental properties or you already have rental properties and you are looking to increase your cash flow and improve your return on investment. And that's what we're going to be going through today. I have 16 different things that can help you increase your cash flow and improve your return on investment and your net worth while doing it. So we're going to get right into it. Number one, super basic here. Buy properties that are in demand and attract quality tenants. I can't stress this enough. The more that I buy in better quality areas and they're better quality properties, the better I usually end up. Okay. 80% of my headaches come from the majority of the properties I bought when I was first investing, which were, I was totally focused on cash flow. Like, what does it look like on paper? And I was buying stuff that I probably shouldn't have bought. I still ended up making money on these properties, but the properties that I'm buying now are typically in high demand areas that demand high rents and get me good quality tenants. So like for instance, the last two single family properties that I've bought on my own without any partners have been a 4-bedroom, 1.5 bathroom house with almost an acre of land. And then in a very good school district, and then a 2-bedroom condo in a very highly regarded area. Neither one jump off the paper when it comes to return on investment, but I also know that I'm going to get a really good quality tenant and I'm going to do really well for myself. And those particular properties also appreciate through and through. So you're going to get some really good numbers when you hold on to those type of properties for a long period of time. So my favorite types of rental properties have large yards, good school district, traditional layouts, garages, those type of things. And that's what I recommend that you look for and you get into as you continue to grow your rental property. Number two, for those of you that have known me or watched some of my other content, you know that I focus on the BRRRR strategy, which is the buy, renovate, and rehab segment of real estate investing. And one thing I highly recommend you do that I just started doing not too long ago is when you are in the rehab phase, start advertising the rental property as soon as possible. Just take a picture of the outside of the property, explain the specifics of the property, and say this property will be available on or before August 15th, and start building up a tenant list for that property. What this does is it creates excitement for the property, and then it also allows you to have a very easy rental period, because you basically, as soon as that property is available, you're going to schedule a time to show that property, and you're going to invite everybody to that property during your open house showing. So you're going to have a ton of people show up, and it's going to create competition, and it's going to give you a bunch of good quality tenants to choose from. And guess what? A lot of the times, the tenants who aren't so good quality, they see all the people around. They're like, oh, there's no way we're getting this property. So they don't even bother with applying most of the time. So it's something I just started doing recently. I've had a lot of success with it, and I highly recommend it. So usually, 30 to 60 days before, I will post. Facebook Marketplace has become my number one way of renting my units. I will post a advertisement on Facebook Marketplace saying this property will be available by this date. And then when somebody reaches out and says, is this still available? I say it's under renovation. Here's our targeted end date. Anybody who's interested, let me know. And I will reach out to you and let you know when the showing will be taking place. And then they let me know if they're interested or not. And then all I do is I go through when the property's ready. I schedule usually like a 30-minute open house, and I just go back through and copy and paste like a paragraph text explaining how the showing is going to work and when it is. And then if they respond at all to that, I say, are you planning on attending? If they say yes, then, we're good to go, and we move on. And I just go through my entire marketplace message list and make sure anybody who reached out to that property will have access to that showing. It's done really well for me and I highly recommend it. So build up that excitement. If you have a rehab going on, that's a perfect time to start letting people know that there's a property coming. Similar to a coming soon property on the sales side, we try and let people know as soon as possible that we're going to have a good quality property available for sale. And why wouldn't you do that on the rental side? It definitely can increase it. So it's going to create that competition and it's going to give you multiple tenants to choose from so that you're not just scheduling with one specific person, wasting a ton of your time, and then that person's not even, a quality person that can qualify for your lease. So, just something I've been doing, and it works out really well. So again, you set up that time ahead of time that hey, I'm going to have an open house showing. I'll reach out when I'm ready, and then you reach out and say, here's when the open house showing is. And you invite them to come and you make sure they're going to come and then you show up. Hopefully you're going to have at least 10 plus people there. The last one I did had about 30 people there. And then the people that are interested in applying, they apply and you rent to the best quality tenant there. So that's just, again, you're going to get the most amount of money. You're going to rent quickly and you're going to get a good quality tenant. Okay. Pretty simple here. Make your units nice. Okay. Good tenants want to live in nice places. They don't want to live in a place where you painted the wood paneling and laid down the cheapest flooring possible that's already coming up in spaces and slapped a coat of paint on something. They want to live in something that looks and feels nice that they want to call home. So the nicer the unit, typically will attract the better quality tenants. Okay. So I think that's super important and it's something I've learned over the years. If I'm going to buy a property, I'm going to try and make that property as nice as possible. Don't get me wrong. You got to stick within the budget and you have to make the numbers work. But typically if I buy a place, I'm trying to make the numbers work to make that unit as nice as possible because I know I'm going to get a very good quality tenant if I have a very nice place. Okay, number 4, if possible, lease your own units. Look, I know property managers are super important to the business of landlording, and I have an immense amount of respect for anybody within the property management field. But I started doing this back when I had one of my best units sit vacant for multiple months, and it was, it was during the pandemic, and they had a whole bunch of reasons why they couldn't show it as frequently as they should have been, and I just took over and had it rented in a week. And honestly, I rent most of my places in under a week, usually 1 or 2 showings max. I have a property rented and I save the first month's rent that I'm normally paying a property manager. And I put that money into the business and, it works out really well for me. So I highly recommend that you rent your own units if possible. If you're not in the area and you can't, okay, and that's one thing. But if you have the availability to show your own units and you can do that, think of it as like a part-time job almost. Hey, I'm going to spend 5 hours renting my own unit, but I'm going to put an extra $1,000 into my pocket. Not only that, but I also get to meet my tenant that I'm putting in there and ensure that I have a good quality person that I'm renting to. Super important. If you can do it, I highly recommend you do it. Again, I love property management companies. They make it so much easier to landlord. However, I also know that they have a lot on their plate, and you probably don't have as much on your plate as they do. So take that time, rent your own units. You're probably going to get more rent, get it rented quicker, and not have to pay a leasing fee. So I highly recommend that you rent your own units. Number 5, add square footage. Finish a basement, finish an attic. Anything you can do to add finished square footage to your space will increase your rent and also increase your property value, i.e. your net worth, right? So we're all in this to build long-term wealth, and I highly recommend that you do this. It's going to just be something that'll increase your property, and people want to rent it because it's got more space. You'll get more rent for it, and over time, your net worth is going to continue to grow even faster because you have that extra 500 to 700 square feet that you finished into a place. Also think about, if you, if you can combine any rooms or add closets or anything like that that you can do to make your property, more attractive to a tenant. Number 6, replace toilets, especially in a property where you pay the water bill, because I'm telling you right now, a leaky toilet can cost you a fortune. If you have one it'll be a lesson to be learned, and you'll start replacing the toilet as often as you can. These new low flow toilets cost around $100, usually around 200, 250 to have them installed, and they will save you a ton of money. Even if the toilet isn't leaking, you'll still save money on your water bill if you replace all of your toilets with low flow toilets. So I highly recommend it. Even if you're not paying the water bill, you got to think it's a huge thing for your tenant to keep their bills low too, right? So, and it's going to be less phone calls you're going to get. So it can definitely improve your unit, and it'll improve your cash flow. If you're paying that water bill. Number 7, add amenities. Think about things that you love at your house and make those a feature of the property that you're renting, right? Things like fire pits, security system, decks, patios, more parking, anything that you can get done within the budget that'll make your units more attractive and rent faster. I highly recommend. Okay, number 8. Looks like I messed up on my numbers here, so maybe I only have 15 things to go over. Coin operated laundry. It's not a huge money maker, but hey, you know what? When you start to build a rental portfolio, any little bit of money goes a long way, right? So if you're bringing in an extra 100, $200 a month on coin operated laundry, that can offset one of your electricity bills or a water bill. And if you don't want to deal with the hassle of finding the machines and going and collecting that, there's companies out there who will install their own machines and service those machines and take a percentage of the income coming in. So you may not have to do it all yourself if you go out and look for those things. Okay, offer Wi-Fi in multi-unit buildings. You got to think about it here. If a tenant has to go out and pay Comcast $75, which is pretty much the minimum that you're going to pay for an internet only plan right now, and you can offer that same thing for $35 or $40, that would be a huge benefit to the tenant. And guess what? It'll make you money too. Not only does it make you money, but it's also something that will allow you to use other things like Wi-Fi thermostats, custom lighting, security systems, and other features that will increase your cash flow, lower your vacancy rate, and rent your units faster. So it can be a huge benefit for your tenants, but it can also make you money. So if you have a multi-unit building, or even if you don't have a multi-unit building, you still could probably find ways to make Wi-Fi a part of your rent, and you can make some money on that. So even if you have a single family house and you just want to make sure that maybe the security system is on that and you want to have access to it, or whatever the situation may be, you could probably find a way to add that as a benefit to the tenant. They don't have to call Comcast and install it, and you can make a little bit of money and offer a nice feature for your property. Charge month-to-month tenants extra. Nobody does this. I mean, nobody does it. A tenant reaches out and says, hey, at the end of my lease, I want to buy a property and I want to go month to month until I can find that property. Is that okay? Most landlords are going to go, yeah, that's fine. Just give me 60 days notice on move out, or 90 days notice on move out. But not many landlords will go, yeah, that's fine, but your rent will now be $50 extra until you move out, and I need 60 days notice. You got to think you're doing a huge benefit for them by not locking them into another lease that they have to buy out, right? So it can be a win-win that you're working with them and giving them a month-to-month lease, and you're making more money during that period. So I highly recommend charging month-to-month tenants extra. Not many people do it, and it can be a way to increase your cash flow. Install storage units. So if you have a multi-unit building, you can, for pretty inexpensively, whip together some storage units in the basement that you can rent out to your tenants. So for an added fee, maybe 25 or $50, they can rent some storage space in your basement or in your attic or in your hallways, wherever you have extra space. And that can be a way for you to add a benefit, because you got to think, especially if they're smaller apartments, these tenants might actually be out paying for a storage unit somewhere, and you're able to offer them storage right on the spot. So it can make you money, and it can save the tenants time and aggravation, and be a huge convenience to your tenant. And if they're thinking about renting with you or somebody else, and the units are very similar, and you have available extra storage, that could be that one thing that nudges them towards renting your building versus renting the competition's building. Raise the rents. It's something that it's one of those do as I say, not as I do, because I have a history of not raising the rent on my good tenants. I always feel like, oh, if they're good tenants, I just want to keep them. But to be honest with you, if you do small amounts, if you do $25, $50 at the end of their lease, it's going to cost them way more money to move than it will for them to just take on the next lease. So if they're happy, they're probably not going to move for $25 or $50. Now, if you start raising the rent $100, $150 every time the lease is up, yeah, at some point they're going to be like, okay, this is too much. I'm going to move. But if you do 25, 20, $25 every time, you're probably going to get very low pushback, very low move out rates, and you're going to increase your cash flow. It's something I haven't done a whole lot in the past. I started doing it more and more recently, and I've been seeing some really good results from doing it. So I highly recommend that you increase at least a small amount, even $10. If you're like, hey, this is a really good tenant, I don't want to lose them, just raise it $10. And that $10 will make you an extra $120 a year. And guess what? That's more than you had the previous year, right? That'll pay for one maintenance call that you have to do on that property, and it'll increase your cash flow and definitely improve your net your net revenue, right? So raise the rents on your tenants. Your expenses are going up every year. There's no reason why we should not be raising the rent on our tenants. And if they do move, more than likely, especially if you're renting your own places, guess what? You're going to probably get more rent than what they're paying you anyway. So you're going to end up making out. The only way you don't make out is if that tenant trashed the place and you have to spend thousands of dollars to get it back up to market ready. And you know what? That's a risk that you take just by being a landlord, period. So I highly recommend that you raise the rent, even if it's a small amount of money. There's never a reason not to raise that rent at the end of the lease. Install air conditioning and dishwashers. These are the two most asked things when I'm renting a property. Does the place have air conditioning? Does the place have a dishwasher? If you can put both of those things in a unit, guess what? You're going to be able to charge a premium for that unit. So you might as well just bite the bullet, put into your rehab budget when you buy a new property. If you have a vacancy coming up and you're wondering how you can increase the rent on that property, guess what? Add an air conditioning unit, add a dishwasher, add both if you can. And I'd be shocked if that doesn't make you an extra $25 to $100 a month on a property. Those are two amenities that are most important to tenants. Nobody wants to, wash dishes by hands, and nobody wants to be sweating in the summertime. And you know what? Even if let's say you have a hot water heating system or something like that, maybe buy some of those, mobile AC units that are hose that hook up to the window, and it can make a place very, very comfortable. Maybe throw a couple of those into the unit and say that Wi-Fi, or not Wi-Fi, say that air conditioning is included, right? Anything you can do to make that tenant's living experience better is going to increase how quickly you rent the property, and it should increase your cash flow as well. So a relatively minimal expense overall, and you should get paid back for that in a pretty short period of time. Okay, this goes right in the same realm as raising the rent. You got to charge those late fees. You have to collect your late fees, and I am the worst at it, right? It's do as I say, not as I do. I'm such a pushover, and this is why I have a property management company, because they are not a pushover, right? They go ahead and collect those late fees. But if you are managing your own units, which a lot of us do, you know what? Just use a property management software. There's some super inexpensive softwares out there, for $20 to $50 a month. You can have a professional software managing your units that charges that automatically. And then just when you're signing the lease with them, you say, hey, look, I use this system. It charges this automatically. If you're going to be 5 days late, more than 5 days late on your rent, guess what? You're getting charges $50. And unfortunately, I do not waive that because it's our policy. So, definitely make sure you pay by the 5th of the month. And by the 5th means it needs to be received by us prior to the 5th, right? If you put in the mail on the 5th, it's going to be late, because by the time I get it, it's already late. So you have to explain that. If you set that expectation up front that, hey, there is going to be a late fee if you are more than 5 days late on your rent, and then more than likely you're going to get that rent on time. And if you don't get that rent on time, then you get to charge that $50 fee and make more money. Okay, this is my last, but also my most important advice I have for landlords. Pets are part of the family. Okay. I have a dog. I'm a dog owner. And yes, I know that pets can also cause damage to units, and they can also be a negative thing for landlords. However, I will tell you right now, if you don't allow pets, more than likely, especially if you're not a hands-on landlord, and you're not at the property all the time, they're probably going to move their pets in anyways, right? So you might as well just allow pets. And this can be something that can increase your monthly cash flow. If you allow pets, you can charge additional security deposits, which can protect you when they do move out, if they do cause damages. And it also will allow you to either charge that extra security deposit and or charge an additional pet fee per month. So there's been times where I'm like, hey, I need a $250 pet deposit and I need $25 per animal, that's going to be in the property per month. So if they have 2 dogs, guess what? That's $50 a month extra that I'm making. So now instead of making $1,000 a month, I'm making $1,050 a month, which can increase my monthly cash flow and also increase the value of my property, right? The more cash I'm bringing in, the more my property is worth in the eyes of a bank anyway. So it's super important. Plus, they just like you better as a landlord if you're willing to allow them to have their pets. And again, a lot of tenants out there are going to have their pets whether you like it or not. So you might as well just be nice and move them in. As long as it's not like a pit bull or a Rottweiler that's not going to be covered under your insurance, you might as well take them on, and you can make some money on it, and it can be a win-win for everybody. I hope you enjoyed that content. So again, that is, I guess, 15 things. I messed up on my numbers from the looks of it here. So 15 things that you can do to increase your cash flow and you improve your return on investment on your rental properties. I hope you enjoyed this video. Again, if you did enjoy this, please subscribe to the YouTube channel or the podcast if you're listening on podcast form. That's how I know that you guys are liking what I'm putting out there, and it'll help me be motivated to continue bringing you great content. So I hope you guys have a good week. This is going to be posted Monday morning, and hopefully I'll bring you some more content throughout the week. I have another video that's already done. I'm just waiting to lock up the property under contract before I release the video for my own benefits, I guess. But it will be another property breakdown, not a walk. We're not walking the property. I did not take a video as there was the seller of the property was there, and it just didn't feel right recording them and recording their property with them being there. But we will go through some pictures, and we will go through the ROI and how that property went down. And then I may even record an update on that video to let you know how the transaction panned out. So maybe it'll be the full video and then a short one later, or maybe I'll just add the reaction to that. So look forward to that content later this week. And if there's anything else that you want to learn within the real estate or business worlds, just hit me up on social media at Ian S. Hoover, or you can shoot me an email, ian@ianhoover.com. All right, guys, until next time, this is Ian Hoover signing off.